into it. For those of you watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop your comments down below, share it if you can. We obviously engage with people on there, and any kind of engagement helps us massively with the algorithm. So please, like I said, subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop your comments down below. For those listening on Spotify, Apple, or any of the podcasting platforms, please follow, give us a 5-star review. That obviously helps us on the audio platforms as well. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the Palace United game, 0-0. I doubt we'll spend 50 minutes on this game because, it wasn't the greatest game. Although I will say, first half, I thought we played really well, man. Like, I was watching it at the nephew's 12-year-old birthday party with some family members crowded around a mobile phone watching it. And yeah, man, we played actually really good football, I would say. And I know there are people out there, I've watched other content creators talk about it already, same old United and all that kind of rubbish. It's not true, man. We played well. In that first half in particular, we absolutely peppered them. And if it wasn't for the crossbar a couple of times and Dean Henderson with a couple of good saves from Garnacho and De Ligt, we would have been 3 or 4-0 up. And we would have been good value for it because we had the best chances and the biggest chances. And it was pretty much only until the end of the first half where Eze had that cutback, which he spurned, where Crystal Palace actually started to come in the game. He
basically passed it to Onana, didn't he? I had
Onana,
it on my FPL team, and I was thinking, what is my man doing?
Weird. And to be honest, if you wanted to fall to anyone on that Palace team, you probably would have chosen him, really. So it was a weird one. He didn't have his best of games, I would say, Eze. The second half, I feel like it was quite even, though. I don't think Palace actually pummeled us, but they did have a few chances. Eze put one wide. Nketiah obviously had that chance where Onana makes a good save and then jumps up for the double save from Ismail Assar, which was a really good save, yeah. But we still had chances. Bruno had one where he was 1-on-1 with the goalie and decided to bloody Trivela it. No idea why he chose that finish, which was really wasteful. So yeah, we were still in it, and we could have won the game. But I think in the end, in the second half, we were nowhere near as effective as the first half, and I think the game just petered out. I think the subs weren't great. That kind of also took some of the cutting edge away from us. Xerxes coming off, who I think he had a decent game. He was definitely holding the ball up really well, and was really helping the attacks work. I think that affected the game. I think, it just all round. It was disappointing that we didn't win, but looking at the performance, I got more enthusiasm about our team going forward. Looking at that first half performance, because I don't think it was a million miles off the second half against Southampton. I don't think it was a million miles off the 7-0 against Barnsley in terms of the way we were playing. And Crystal Palace are a handy team, so the only disappointment is that we just didn't have our shooting boots, and we should have won that game. But considering 4-0 against them last season, I'm not absolutely heartbroken that we didn't win. I still think the performance was decent and the result wasn't the worst thing. It does put a bit more pressure. Well. Yeah, exactly. We've got 3 clean sheets out of 5 in the Prem. I know with that Liverpool hammering makes things look bad, but Brighton aside, we didn't concede a goal in any of other fixtures this season. So yeah, that's something to take, and that back line looked decent. I think Dalot and Mazraoui coming in and inverting, they both had really good games. I think Licha, apart from an absolute nonsensical double foot challenge on Kamada, had a pretty good game as well. De Ligt was very good as well. I think he looked really stable, and he should have scored, but I think that was more of a Henderson save than a De Ligt miss, because I feel like Henderson did. That was a really good save from him, low down. I think the defense was good, man. And Onana, I have to give him some credit. I don't rate him massively, but the double save was class. And the expectations are so low that for me, I was pleasantly surprised when he made that save. Overall, it's a difficult one to analyze because I feel like we played really well, but we didn't get the win, and we need wins. So yeah, we've got Spurs and Villa next in the league, so it's put a little bit more pressure on those games, unfortunately. But what did you make of it, mate?
No, I agree with everything you said, man. I'm not going to talk about it too much. I think in the first half you had good chances, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a bit disappointed in Crystal Palace. Under Glasner back end of last season, man. They were looking really good back end of last season, but so far this season they've looked really poor. And I don't know, maybe they're just trying to gel in some of their new players. Obviously, they got Nketiah in, which is good for them as well. He looked like he was pretty lively. But I was kind of disappointed with them. But that's not to take anything away from you guys. I think you made good chances. It really just, again, came down to, did you have your shooting boots on? Could you just get a bit lucky here and there to force a couple goals in? And unfortunately, you just weren't lucky on this occasion to be able to do so. But I do think, and I don't mean this as a slur at all, but like when Arsenal were in our down era, I'd take that, right? Like I genuinely think you need to take baby steps in this game, right? And a lot of Chelsea fans, Arsenal fans, Man United fans almost feel like they're owed results and that Crystal Palace should just roll over and let you win. It's not like that anymore, man. Like the difference between a good team and a great team is not that big anymore, right? So for a team like Crystal Palace, it's a good result to go to Crystal Palace away and get a clean sheet when, let's be honest, everyone's been shouting about you guys being so shaky in the back, right? And I think only nine shots in total conceded with only how many on target?
4 or 5, I think.
Look. 4 or 5 on target, and people are complaining about you guys having 25 shots. You fixed that problem now, or you're fixing that problem now, which is good to see. And I think you've got to take that as progress. You do need to get better in the final third. You do need to be able to put chances away. But I think you've probably got at least a good enough attack to score. Like if Nicholas Jackson can get 2 goals and an assist, someone in your bloody team can score, right?
The thing is
that if Nunes can Darwin can score as well, someone in your team can score.
Yeah, it wasn't a good weekend for my hate alongs when you've got Nicholas Jackson and Darwin scoring. But no, I hear you, and normally I would come in and say, "Damn, our attack need to do better." But coming off a week where we've scored 10 goals, it's hard for me to really come at them and say that, right? This game did feel a lot like one of those typical games that even in our up periods, good teams can occasionally not have their shooting boots on, or their opposition goalie can have a good game, or you can have some bad luck when you're hitting crossbars. And honestly, I did feel like that was the case. And it obviously it's hard to justify because we're in the mud and we haven't had too many other good performances this season so far. So it kind of looks more like the norm than the outlier. But if you watch the performance with with neutral eyes and not trying to look for an agenda that you're running, I actually think we played well, and it's not something that I'm massively worried about when it comes to this game. And yeah, I agree with you. I expect a bit more from Palace, but I want to give us more credit. I actually felt like that first half, they weren't really given a chance to do anything. We were on them, man, and we created a lot of opportunities. And so you saw more of the Palace that you probably expected in the second half. And even then, Eze puts that one shot, wide, and Onana makes, a really good double save, and we have chances at the other end. It was more even. And I feel like, you did see a glimpse when we dropped our level in the second half of Palace being a decent team. But yeah, overall, man, 0-0. I wouldn't say I'm happy with it, and I do feel like you have to keep your standards high, even if your team's not quite there. So I won't be happy with a draw at Palace, but I'm not devastated, right? I don't think it's a horrendous result, but I do believe you need to go there and win, and I do believe the performance actually did deserve a win, and so therefore I'm gonna focus on that and not focus on any kind of agendas.
It just needs a balanced approach, right? Like it needs a balanced approach. I agree with you. You need to keep your standards high, but at the same time, you need to be able to take positives from the game, right? And I think if you look at the fixture last season versus this season, it's a big improvement. So that's at least one positive you can look at, right? But on the subject of shooting boots, I need to talk to you about something, mate. After Rashford scoring 2 against Barnsley and scoring, I think, 1 against who was it that you beat?
Southampton.
Against Southampton. He's finally scored, and everyone was making jokes about it's been so long. And he drops him now. After everyone's been asking for him to be dropped previously when he wasn't, when he hadn't scored, and now he gets dropped from the starting 11. What is going on, mate? Is it a form thing? Is it a fallout? What do you think's happened here?
I can't really tell. I don't know I don't know about you, mate, but when I listen to Ten Hag speak, unless he's talking about Harry Potter, it's hard to decipher whether or not he's talking or not. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's come out and said that there's nothing wrong and that it's just rotation, and that is believable because Rashford played against Barnsley the majority of the game. He played against, obviously, the full game against Southampton, and so he might be playing the full game against Twente in midweek as well. So I don't know. I mean, it makes complete sense that we would rotate a bit because this next 4 or 5 weeks before the next international break, we've all of us teams in Europe, you guys included, us, we're all going to have so many games coming out the arse. It makes sense to rotate, and he's probably rolled the dice on the Palace game because he probably doesn't want to rotate him for Tottenham or Villa. So I'm choosing to believe it's just rotation, and personally, I'm not mad at it. We've been calling for Garnacho and Ahmad to start games for a couple of weeks, and so I don't think it's as shocking as Garnacho deserving a shot. Like, he also scored 2 and got a couple of assists against Barnsley as well. He also scored a goal against Southampton. He also played really well off the bench pretty much in every game that he's played so far. So I don't think it's that shocking that he's come in. And I think Ahmad deserves to keep his place on the right wing as well. I think he's been one of our best players this season. So yeah, man, if our wingers were poo and Rashford had been playing amazing, and we'd have done this, I would believe more into the whole kind of, there's been a rift or something. I just feel like the media is trying to media right now, mate. I'll be honest. When that match was on as well, the amount of times they were panning to Rashford's face on the bench, it was like they were looking for some sort of reaction. You know what I mean?
That was like when when the Raya Ramsdale thing went on, they literally had the camera on Ramsdale 24/7. So I feel you.
Exactly.
But
it was Ramsdale watch. It was ridiculous.
But I've got to then ask you, mate. So if he is going to start him against Twente and he started him against Barnsley, is there something in the belief that maybe Ten Hag is prioritising, the cup competitions and getting you a bit more silverware, or am I just reading into it too much?
I mean that would make sense, but I don't know. Maybe as a United fan watching all of our games super closely, I've come to expect not that much rotation. So if you remember last season when we were in a bunch of competitions and the first Ten Hag season, he went super strong against rubbish teams. And we were all like, why the hell is he not rotating? And I just think that he is going to try and play his best players as much as he can. And he'll be very selective with rotation. And he's chosen Palace. And you know what? I'm not mad at it. So I don't know if he's prioritising the cup competitions, but I think he's always been strong in cups. That's something that I think he's been fairly consistent with. And maybe that is the reason why he wants to try and win them and he sees them as more winnable. But I don't know. I've come to expect it. So when I see that kind of stuff, I'm not kind of reading into it or thinking anything has changed with Ten Hag's approach to these games. I think he just wants to play his best players as much as possible. Did you know that Bayern Dier made his home debut last week against Barnsley? He's been at the club for 18 months. That tells you how much rotation there is, right? Right? He made his home debut, and he's the backup goalie. I mean, we got into the quarterfinal of the Carabao Cup or fourth round or whatever last season, won the FA Cup, and he's literally just played his first game at Old Trafford like 1 week ago. So that tells you everything you need to know about Ten Hag.
That's even madder when you think of the fact that your main choice goalkeeper is Onana, who has had a rough time. And was supposed to have gone to the AFCON as well. I know that obviously he came back early in that, but that is mad to think of the fact that Bayern Dier literally just got his home debut when he's got a keeper that is erratic to say the least, and that should have been at the bloody AFCON for half of last season. But yeah, that's mad. Did he play well? I can't remember. He looks like he's
against Barnsley. He had nothing. He had nothing to do. To be honest, he's profile wise very similar to Onana. He's risky, so he's not. It's like we've got two risky goalies. So I mean, I'm okay with it because it looks like he's at least gone. That's the profile he wants, and he's not just some of the stuff where he's gone.
There's a method
just
to the
buying players,
kind of thing, right?
Buying players that he has worked with. I think is kind of lazy analysis. he's gone for players that he's worked with because he wants a certain profile, I think. And the Onana one fits into that bucket, but then the Bayindir one also fits in because that's his style. So yeah. Anyway, back to the thing. I just think I'm not mad when Rashford gets rotated. If we start to hear rumblings about a rift, then I'll be upset about it. But if we don't hear anything and it is just presumed to be rotation, then you know what, bro, I'm happy about it. I want our players to be rotated, and I don't want any player to be above rotation. If you need to rotate Rashford, then rotate Rashford. If you need to rotate someone else, then it's all good. But at least he's done it when Rashford's playing well. And, it's not something that's going to kill his confidence. Yeah, you would hope so. I mean, they're still trying it because, it's United. They're always going to try it and get their little soundbite. But I'm okay with it, man. I think the media is just trying to media right now. And I'm not even going to give it any kind of room to breathe.
And I think it actually could have ended up being the perfect timing because he did it before a very spicy game that's going to take up most of the media's attention for the next week or two. So it's actually pretty genius. I don't think he planned that out because obviously he dropped him before this even happened. But generally speaking, it's probably the best time to try and get away with something like that, where Man United would typically get hammered for that kind of choice made in maybe a less exciting weekend. So it could end up working out, okay for you in the end. And I think Rashford could get what is probably some much needed rest because, I mean, for a club that has a lot of injury problems, there could be a link with trying to play your best squad 11 as your best first 11 as frequently as possible. So maybe this is a nice way to try and keep some of your better players fit as well.
No, 100%. I'm down with it, man. Let's hope we see more rotation, and that will be a sign that the team's performing well and going deep in cups as well. Because the more games we have, that's obviously a better sign that we're doing well. But yeah, anyway, United 0, Palace 0. We move. We're unfortunately in the bottom half, but I'm not going to dwell on that for banter purposes.